Welcome to the Living Connected podcast. I'm your host, Mallory Meyer. I'm a multi-six-figure online entrepreneur, founder of White Wolf Reiki, and creator of the Frequency Business Mastery School. I weave together the metaphysical with the science of the subconscious mind and timeless business principles to help you take your passion for serving and empowering others full time. I'm not just here to teach you how to build a profitable and aligned business, but to invite in more authenticity, awareness, clarity, and certainty in what, who, and how you serve. In return, to generate more sales as you cultivate greater confidence and wealth through deeper self-sovereignty and advocacy, inviting in a trauma-sensitive approach to protocols and processes in our marketing and selling as we honor each client's humanity in the process of living more connected. This podcast is here to connect you further to your self-mastery for business, your lifestyle, and of course, your mindset. Join me on my mission to uplift and elevate the collective to love and light. I can't help but laugh sometimes when I sit down to record a new podcast, and albeit that this, I think, is still under 10 podcasts at this point that I have recorded, but it actually just feels like I should be starting with a Dear Diary, something along those lines. If there's been any, I think the author was like Judy Bloom, and there was always like Dear Margaret. I don't know why that is just so caught in my head. So, Dear Diary, dear audience, here is a new episode, and it is diving into our mindset and ultimately the power of our mindset in understanding truly what it can look like to not just retrain our brain, but also why it is such a foundational piece to ultimately start with in your business. I'm also going to be sharing with you at the end of this episode a daily practice that you can start to take forward with some questions just to help loosen up this model of reality in your world. And most recently, I'm always so grateful, but I do want to share with you just a very personal experience and what's been happening behind the scenes as to why these, whether it is the exercises that I incorporate and have access to, and even just having at the very basic level a clear understanding of my perceived reality to help allow me to persevere through these times of whether it's uncertainty, fear, a waver, testing my faith in this process and in this business journey. And think about it as this practice in managing your mind and really being embodied with this work. What it starts to look like is if you are, of course, we all use social media, but if you fall into the trap of comparing yourself to others and you're questioning, why are they creating so much success? What is happening behind the scenes that I'm not maybe like recognizing, witnessing? And ultimately, it's because I like to use this analogy around imagine a tree growing. And this tree is growing so immensely tall, it's expanding so wide. But at the fundamental level here, the capacity for this tree to grow is it needs to have very deepened roots into the ground. These deepened roots are our mindset, the identity of who we are being. Whereas some other smaller trees that are struggling to reach that height, to reach that growth, it's because they haven't expanded their roots into the ground deep enough to be able to hold that capacity of which they are ultimately desiring to call in. So just in understanding that analogy a little bit further in the importance of mindset, tapping in first just with my most recent experience and this gratitude for the practice is just recognizing in a perceived ebb. I always love to kind of focus on what happened last month. And last month, being August, was a perceived ebb for me in my reality. Not only was it because there wasn't as many new individuals coming in to work with me, but it was also this attachment that I was starting to recognize to my results and frustration that was just starting to come to the surface. This roller coaster that it was almost a cycle of quickly bringing my awareness into negative self-talk, comparison, and almost forgetting everything that had already come, everything that is coming, all of which that it was so silly that I was almost berating myself to this level when I'm at a level that I have always dreamed of. And this was almost compounding that frustration on top of it. But really coming back into the practices and my emotions of understanding again, this is 30 days. 30 days, 1 month of 12 months, 30 days of 365 days. And really starting to find evidence of it can happen so quickly. And what this was truly offering for me in this perceived ebb again was to heal beliefs that were no longer allowing me to progress, no longer allowing me to grow. And reminding myself too that there's a continuous breakthrough cycle in this journey too. Remaining deeply connected back into my why, because there was truthfully even stories coming up of, do I just want to surrender back into a very nonchalant, easygoing job where I don't need to show up all the time or create this? But one of the biggest things that brought forward a deep level of evidence when I was just talking about the days was recognizing in the past I've created 36K in 8 days. This is really these moments where it's a test of faith, it's a reminder about our why, and it's also coming back into what is this really teaching me and allowing me to get very clear in retraining my brain again for this new level, which at times within our identity, as we are shifting and as we are transmuting and transforming ourselves, our business just needs time to catch up with us. But without this emotional capacity and also mental ability not to just throw it all out and be so disheartened in a month again that wasn't even in any way bad. It was a multi-5-figure cash month, and this is what really frustrated me. It was something that I should be celebrating, and instead of the celebration and the gratitude, I was very caught up on what wasn't happening. But this practice again to bring me back into control and certainty, to continue to persevere amongst some uncertainty that was happening. And truly for me, this is the definition of being embodied in coming back to those practices that you not only just share with clients, but you really speak to in who it is that we're being in our business, and connecting with that and honoring that. For me, it's all about us going first, making that decision in order to hold space for our clients and our next level clients that we're here and ready to serve. And just one last piece in this very vulnerable expression of the behind the scenes is one of the areas of the limiting beliefs that I moved through last month too is one of the thoughts of, why am I not there? And what is happening in their reality versus my reality? Very similar to that tree analogy as to why I bring that forward, because I am in a very high level mastermind for 6 to 7 figure business entrepreneurs. And as much as I absolutely love that energy of being amongst 7-figure business owners, it can be very triggering at times in questioning again, like this belief of unraveling and finding that piece of gratitude of our own timelines and that humanity piece. But that in itself can bring up a lot in these moments. Okay, so without further ado, tapping into the beauty of retraining your brain, the beauty of learning and understanding. As you know, my background being a neurolinguistic programmer, it is in a way offering the most simplest and most effective way to understand your mind and how it creates the results and your reality, and how it's already creating your reality. Sometimes we like the results and the realities that we have each and every day. And sometimes, just like you heard me say last month, I didn't quite like that reality. But that is based on thoughts and feelings we are having of a completely neutral condition, which is reality and results. So I'm going to briefly just kind of speak to at a high level how to understand how our mind works and how you perceive your reality. So this is really ultimately through the reticular activating system. Ultimately seeing this as truly the gatekeeper of information that is let into your conscious mind. Explaining to you ultimately how to create any result that you want, looking at it like the key to the universe. If you haven't heard of the reticular activating system before, I offer you even just pause for a minute and go Google reticular activating system, and you'll understand it from the field of NLP. And I'm not here, of course, to teach you NLP, but really to show you how your mind communicates and corresponds with reality and how our programs affect how we view reality. So very, very high level. Just understanding this gatekeeper of our mind at such a level of which every single second, at any given second, we have so much data and information coming into our world outside of our nervous system. Sights, sounds, touch, taste, smells, you name it. But our capacity on a biological level here, just bringing this into your awareness at a conscious mind level 2, is we can only be aware of all the data, the millions and millions of data coming in at every single second at a 0.004%. Just let that sink in for a moment. All of this, sight, smell, taste, sound, touch, everything coming forward for you, but consciously, you are only aware of 0.004%. And now you might be asking, well, of this 0.004%, and of all these billions of bits of data and information coming to me, how is it that I am perceiving that in front of me? And this is really where we look at these models that are built within our mind. That is being models of values that you've picked up, beliefs, decisions, and those are forming the evidence to which your consciousness is aware, because it has to delete, distort, and generalize based on relevancy. And that relevancy, again, is derived from belief and decisions, values, and models that we have been shown. And this is really where, especially as a facilitator, we can tap into and unravel these memories that have created these decisions, because a decision is ultimately based off of continuous thoughts that we've had. But we can really start to, again, relearn to re-become. We can subconsciously program our minds through this to, again, seek opportunities that are in our highest soul alignment and prioritize things differently of this 0.004% that is coming in consciously. Our subconscious, you may have heard this before too, it's very much like a hard drive, like a computer. And when we're born, just remembering this pure divinity that we are born as, a computer with no programs, but we've accumulated so much. And usually at this age, I know for myself, being in my 30s, we really have to get to the crux of, does this program even still serve me anymore? Those who choose to work with me are really taking this radical responsibility in their willingness and acceptance with forgiveness in themselves to move forward, releasing the past and stepping back into their divine self. So many of us will focus on what we don't want, which only perpetuates this cycle of seeing more of that thing. And this is truly where we need to train our brain and rewire our nervous system to find evidence that will really work for us. But just like anything that we are incorporating into our lives, it is a practice. It is a muscle to strengthen, to do this work around retraining your brain. Just as if you were to be going to the gym and wanting to strengthen your bicep muscles, your leg muscles, you can't just go once and expect change. It is a continuous dedication, and it really is bringing deeper awareness and abilities to open your mind to all the possibilities rather than your current circumstances. And the basis of my work is supporting your homecoming journey, which is rooted in questioning, coaching all of the perceived limits that we've been telling ourselves, either again from past learned experiences or taking on the beliefs of others as our own truth. It's moving away from not the perceived reality of your current or past circumstance, but really tapping into that focus on possibilities within your future to be able to bridge that gap between where you are now and where you'd really like to be in a very pleasurable way of doing so. Because ultimately, there are two ways in which you can change your beliefs. One of which being a very informal process, which you've likely heard of already, and that's just through repetition, journaling, reflection, and really starting to challenge the limiting belief that you hold onto with one that would serve you better. The other way of doing so is actually reprogramming, tapping into that theta level, which is in the subconscious, the deep subconscious, where we can access memories unbeknownst to you. And you also have now techniques that you can take forward within the work, again, that we specifically do together, that can help you derive that memory, derive that decision, derive that emotion, where it came from in order to reprogram. And therefore, in both situations, just rewriting your beliefs, your decisions, your thoughts to serve you better. This is how we start to create your reality. But one of the biggest hurdles you may also have to be faced with is just moving through the complexity that our mind loves. Our mind wants to believe that in business too, very specifically, action is what is creating the result. We've also just been conditioned to believe that. But looking at it through this lens of how I just described at this very high level, the ways of which we perceive our reality, it's our thoughts creating our results, and how our results are evidence truly of our thoughts, and why it is so important to bring in a practice of our own in managing our mind. Our circumstances do not create our feelings. Our circumstances, which is anything external to us, they're neutral. They're not positive, they're not negative. We associate that to be, but it's truly just neutral. And that's where circumstances can trigger thoughts, but they don't create our feelings, because thoughts create our feelings. And from a feeling perspective, that in a sense will fuel our behaviors. And our behaviors, of course, at that point create our results. So always looking at your results, your reality of what are the thoughts that I'm holding on to. And of course, just from a very reptilian, practical, pragmatic level, our minds were built to keep us safe. They were built to be creatures of habit. And anytime we kind of take our way out of that and into something new, it loves to have a freak out and make us believe something very different of ourselves. And this is just really where it comes back to, are you being the curious observer versus someone who is believing anything that they are also hearing? I shared recently, at least within my social media side of things, of a story around, I'm always reminded of, if you've ever seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, there's a scene where she goes to his family's home and the grandpa and them are playing a card game, the card game being bullshit. And honestly, not just with my clients, and I say this with love, but also for myself, I always just laugh because it comes up so often in my mind of bullshit. I'm not accepting this thought. I'm not accepting the story you're telling me to be the truth without at least a question, a piece of curiosity. And so even for you to understand that when it comes to what it is that you're holding on to with your stories, the belief in who you feel that you're being. And the truth from our mind operating in this way is we inadvertently block ourselves from receiving what we want most. Your business is a reflection of you. the beliefs that we hold on to about ourselves to show up in our business. So, do you have beliefs that stop you from dreaming big or following through? Do you get distracted and do you procrastinate? Because you're already a master manifester, but you're just manifesting old programs. And one of the greatest gifts, just going back to my initial story at the start of this episode, is this challenge that we can go through life consciously thinking about the beliefs and thoughts we want to have, but unless our subconscious minds believe it as well, we won't be able to shift out of that reality. We are just programmed to repeat their patterns without conscious choice. So again, always coming back to this choice that you have available within yourself to make that change and that commitment as well. Start with a very simple awareness practice of the words that you are choosing to say, whether out loud or even to yourself, it doesn't matter. Our subconscious is very much picking up on it all. But are you saying, I can't, but, like a sentence, and then you're always leading with a but? It should be, I choose. Even just writing that out consistently for 30 days and doing the mental quote unquote reps around I choose will offer such a significant impact in your reality and the frame of mind that you're holding. Lastly, tapping into this daily practice that you can take forward and offer some greater connection within your mindset, your beliefs, your thoughts. And this starts with getting curious about what, for one, is the circumstance. What thoughts are you when you have determined what is the circumstance in this reality of yours? What are the thoughts that you are having about it? So, for instance, it could be your circumstance of, I have no clients coming to work with me. Now, what are the thoughts that you are having about that? How are you feeling with those thoughts? And now, from this awareness that you have of your thought and your feeling, what is either the inaction or the action that you are going to take? Just pausing and noticing any misalignment. And by misalignment, it's also looking at questioning this thought of, I don't have any clients coming in, of a circumstance on that example of, I have clients coming in. What would be then your action or inaction? And really tapping into that higher self frequency. And starting to also see from this initial inaction or action that you brought forward, what ultimately is the result. Again, going back to what I said earlier, the result is really ultimately the thought that we are holding on to. So how are you choosing to consciously now bring this into your reality and to move forward without necessarily letting these external circumstances presently dictate your actions? I'd love to hear and also just challenge you to commit to these practices for the next 30 days and come find me. Come find me in the DMs and let me know what have been some of the amazing shifts that you've been able to witness in committing to yourself through retraining your brain. I could truly go on and on about the subconscious mind and ways of which we can start to unfold and bring awareness into our reality too, and also just how a lot of the projections and perceptions that we're having are being mirrors or even areas of which we can't control, and really start to recognize to energetic boundaries coming forward in someone else's projection, and the way that they receive that is also their model of reality. We go into so much depth in the containers that I hold for individuals, whether you're looking to build and scale your business. But for now, I'll leave the conversation here at this point, and also expect other episodes where we'll get into just higher level opportunities to shed some light in practices within your mindset and presuppositions of the subconscious mind, that of which, again, with other individuals, we only have what has been available to us as resources, and every human has only so many resources available to them based on, again, how they have grown up. So just a new level of acceptance as well. this is a gift that continues to give when we really do this work. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I'm so excited because next week will be the first hot seat coaching that I'm releasing. Really looking forward to sharing more on that and that specific session. And then, of course, just kind of coming into simultaneously continuing to have solo episodes with the hot seat ones interjected in between. If you're an energy healer desiring to build and scale a profitable and aligned business, there are 2 evergreen opportunities to explore to take that next step together. One is my 10-week course, mastermind, and coaching accelerator known as Frequency Business Mastery School. This is more than just your normal one-to-one course and coaching program. It truly fills the gap that most programs fail to address with this subconscious reprogramming and identity shifts that take place within you. It has self-paced modules, but the program also has these subconscious elements, so we're busting through the blocks that have kept you from experiencing the success that you want while simultaneously regulating your nervous system to calmly and safely expand your energetics towards that which you do desire to create in your business. You also have teachings and lessons to enhance your psychic gifts and biohack your energy with the tools provided. All of this is delivered into your hands so you can feel empowered and confident implementing beyond this program even when blocks arrive in the future. Secondly, I have one spot open next month to onboard a new one-to-one 6-month client to receive that highest level of support and resources as you choose to build and scale a business. Links for each are available in the show notes.